Hey guys, and welcome into the Horseshoe Huddle podcast on Sports Illustrated. We are the Horseshoe Guys. I am Deputy Editor Josh Carney, joined by Senior Analyst Jake Arthur. Jake, you have had an interesting first week at Colts training camp, and you had
Yeah.
some travel mixed in.
Oh God,
So,
yeah.
yeah, you've done a great job with some of the daily diaries from training camp. It's been a huge help for those of us that are not there, but you got back in the saddle after a weekend off at the right time today.
Yeah, no kidding.
A lot of news coming out of Colts camp today. Obviously, Frank Reich returns from his COVID stay, but unfortunately, Carson Wentz had foot surgery today on his left foot to have a bone removed. Will miss 5 to 12 weeks. Which, if he misses 5 weeks, Jake, he's back right around week 1. He misses
hmm
12 weeks. That's week 6, week 7.
I think I
So
said week 8 or something today.
yeah, right
I
around there.
think I
So
did it from like this Friday or something because I didn't think we knew what day he was having it yet. But
okay, so yeah, I mean, massive news, absolutely
mhm.
massive news. I was a little shocked Friday when it came out that Wentz was going to miss practice. Obviously, you did the quick report that he would sit out Friday's practice with a foot injury. At that time, kind of just go through the timeline here quickly. At that time, we really didn't know how bad it was. Offensive coordinator Marcus Brady spoke after practice and said they were just being cautious. He felt a bit of a twinge or a pop. I can't remember the exact word Brady said in his left foot near the end of practice. And then obviously he sat out all of Friday, has not practiced since. And then it comes out, I want to say it was Saturday, it comes out that Carson was going to see a foot specialist, which when that happens, Jake, it's never a good sign.
All right, yeah.
And yesterday, so Sunday afternoon, it comes out Wentz was going to go the rehab and rest route and hope to be back by week 1. So I think you did the report on that, or it may have been our intern, Andrew Moore. So that goes out. Everything seems fine. People can relax. Everything's all right. Monday morning, Carson Wentz will have surgery. Um, I, this it's hard to say this, but like it obviously stinks for the Colts' chances in 2021, depending on how long he misses. But if I'm in the Colts front office, I'm like, this is kind of great. Like he may miss enough time where he does not play 70% of the snaps, and we don't have to go about first rounder. We get to see what Jacob Eason is at this point. But this feels like a decision that came from up top. Like, no, Carson, you're going to get this done because we're not going to go 2 weeks into the season. You re-aggravate it, you're out all year.
hmm
I know that was long-winded from me, but where are you at with the Carson Wentz news? How do you feel? And where do they go from here?
Yeah, it's. I never want to comment on whether someone else made the right decision or not to have surgery because it's not my body. But
Right.
from what it sounds like, the Colts were very much in the camp of go ahead and have the surgery. Like you said, take care of it now because you don't want to get on a roll. It's week 8, week 9. That thing screws up again. And then, wow, now you're having the surgery and are out 5 to 12 weeks, which is essentially the season, including the playoffs.
Right.
So better to do it now. Like you mentioned, they kind of fumble into kind of a good spot. I mean, it's not advantageous for them to not have Carson Wentz. Like that's
Right.
not what I'm saying. But like you said, they get to evaluate Jacob Eason in a real game situation. Like they have all this time now to prepare him for week 1, which should be more than enough time to game plan for him specifically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they'll know what they have in him, how far along his development is. And then there's the whole first rounder, second rounder thing. Um, a lot of us have kind of pointed out you can't really avoid thinking about that. There's the part where if he plays 70% of the snaps and the Colts make the playoffs, then it becomes a first round pick. And then if he plays 75%, regardless, it's a first round pick. He may not see that 70 or 75% now.
Right.
It's hard to say. I mean, you never know how many snaps an offense is going to be on the field week to week, but yeah, that's they're kind of fumbling into a good situation in those two areas. those were two question marks that they might be able to have answered. But I mean, this will kind of be like 2018 for Carson when he missed like the first week or two of the season.
Coming off the torn ACL.
Yeah, and then he made his debut against the Colts, oddly enough. And I mean, he didn't look like super sharp, but the Eagles won because of him. He had good escapability. He was scrambling well, and it's probably going to be a little reminiscent of that.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to call it a win-win because it's clearly not. But again, if you're in the Colts front office, like, it stinks to lose Wentz for any amount of time and have to have him go under the knife to have something fixed. But you get a chance to evaluate Jacob Eason fully in preseason, throughout training camp and probably the first few weeks of the season. You get Carson Wentz to handle something that apparently is pre-existing the whole way back to high school, which is just baffling in today's day and age that this flew under the radar this long into his career and now is an issue. And then you get the chance to potentially keep that first-round draft pick next year, which from a team building perspective is just absolutely massive. I hope Carson Wentz doesn't miss the full 12 weeks. It sounds like from everything Frank Reich said today that will only happen if he has a setback. Like the 5 to 12 weeks, typically when a player is injured, you hear 4 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, 6 to 8 months. It's not that massive of a gap, whereas 5 to 12 weeks is like, whoa, wait a minute, So obviously there's, a lot depends on how his body reacts, how his foot heals. Let's say he misses 8 weeks, so that puts him.
I think that's week 4 or something.
Week 4, roughly, yeah. So let's say he comes back week 4, week 5. Obviously, Jacob Eason's going to have to go through a just gauntlet first 3 weeks. But if Wentz is out the first 4 weeks, do you see this team adding a veteran quarterback, or should we truly believe Frank Reich in what he said today? And Jacob Eason's in the driver's seat. We believe in him. We want to see how he develops. Do you believe that fully? Do you think this team looks at a veteran quarterback later in camp? Where are you at right now with the current quarterback situation on the field with Wentz removed from the picture?
Yeah, so I think that's probably the best course of action. Luckily for them, so for those who don't know why it's 5 to 12 weeks, Frank explained today that you just don't know. You can't put much of an ETA on things until like a few weeks after the surgery, right? So they'll know here before the regular season starts what kind of time frame they're probably looking at. If it looks like it's the longer end, sure, maybe they make a move. I'm not a big fan of adding quarterbacks this late in the game that haven't been in the system. That's why as much as I have strayed away from this whole thing in the last several months, Nick Foles is just about one of the only guys that makes sense, and I don't think any of us really want to see that happen. But if you're looking for someone who can plug and play, and you don't have to like totally reteach them, it's really Nick Foles.
That's the only guy.
And, I mean, there's Nate Sudfeld out there probably knows a bit of Frank and Peterson stuff, and
here's
Jacoby,
the other thing,
of course. But
I was going to say there's the other thing. You could pony up a mid-round draft pick to Miami and say, hey, we need him back. Yeah. I don't think Chris Ballard's going to operate that way. I really can't see him trading away any picks for a quarterback, at least in 2022, because we've heard him say on the record how valuable these picks in the next year will be because they should be able to evaluate normally again. The only way I'm good with a Nick Foles trade, and just pulling up his contract here, his cap hit is almost $10.7 million this year. The only way it works is if the Bears eat, let's say, 35% of that deal, and the pick that you give up isn't until 2023. That's the only way I would feel comfortable with it. Obviously, that's setting a lot of parameters for me to feel comfortable with that deal. But you're doing the Bears a solid by taking that deal on. That's what it comes down to. The
Yeah,
Bears desperately want to get rid of him.
Right. They don't want to pay their third string quarterback that much money.
No, they desperately want to get rid of that guy. He just turned 32 years old. He's the only guy that you could bring in realistically from the outside that could step into Frank Reich's system. But again, the thing that we're forgetting about this is, let's say the Colts go ahead and do that. What does that do to Carson Wentz's, confidence, mentality as the leader in that locker room and in the quarterback room? Because we hear from reports that when Nick Foles won the Super Bowl for the Eagles and then came back that following year, he really struggled with it because Nick Foles was so beloved in Philadelphia. His teammates loved him, and there was a quarterback controversy constantly. Now you're going to potentially bring that guy in behind him in a new location. If I were Chris Ballard and Frank Reich, I'm like, I'm not touching that. I'm not touching that. We'll be fine with Jacob Eason and Sam Ellinger. We have to believe in our development. Let's save the draft picks. Let's play these young kids, and we'll figure it out. But yeah, like PFF, Sam Monson put out it had to be like a 2,000-word article. And he identified guys like Foles, San Francisco's Jimmy Garoppolo, Marcus Mariota in Las Vegas, and Gardner Minshew, of all people, in Jacksonville, as potential trade candidates for the Colts. I don't even want to touch the Minshew one because that's simply not happening. Why would the Jaguars go, yeah, you know what, Indy, we'll help you. Here you go.
I like Gardner Minshew, but
I love him.
Interdivision is probably not happening.
Yeah, I love Minshew. If you haven't had a chance to, please listen to him on Chris Long's Greenlight podcast. He's hilarious. Yeah, I couldn't see Jacksonville being like, we'll help you. Obviously, we'll give you our backup quarterback. I think the Colts really just need to sit tight and really trust in their development of Eason and Ellinger because you spent draft picks on those guys. You've got to see what they have at some point. So enough of the Carson Wentz news at this point. And, we're getting some comments in here.
Yeah.
Kyle Stewart, just ride it out with what we have and fingers crossed. Kyle, we're with you, man. There's no quarterback out there right now that would even make sense aside from Foles. And again, I don't want to touch that cap hit or even deal with that issue in the locker room. Aside from the Wentz news, I want to talk about what you saw at practice, the first few days. And Wentz struggled the first day from all accounts. Second day.
Honestly, if you look at the numbers, it wasn't that bad. There were like three drops early. I didn't think overall he struggled. I thought things leveled out pretty well once guys started catching the ball. It just looked like it was their first practice and there was rust to knock off. But I kind of would give him a bit of a pass on that one. But I mean, he did look better on day 2 and the offense did.
Yeah, day 2, and there was that highlight out there. He threw that bomb to Zach Pascal. I'm wondering if that may have been where he felt the pop.
It was a rollout.
Yeah, he just said late in practice on a rollout, and that was one of his rollouts.
And he would have had to plant hard on that left foot because he had to brace himself to stop for Buckner. Yeah.
Yep. So it could have been on that one. But yeah, by all accounts, and you saw in person much better on day 2, there seemed to be optimism, genuine optimism with how this offense looked. Obviously, it's very hard to take anything away from the first few days of training camp from a team perspective. But just tell us what you saw from Wentz in the 2 days. What you liked, what you didn't like. Maybe what surprised you in Westfield.
Yeah, so several of us were just talking about it's kind of a breath of fresh air that quarterback mobility is back.
Yeah.
With Phillip Rivers, that just wasn't really an option at all. And, this year now we're seeing, quarterbacks take off and run when there's nothing available downfield, rollouts, bootlegs, all these things. That's pretty refreshing because it opens up Frank Reich's offense so much more. So that was definitely good. The arm strength is for real. It really is. That odd throw that he had to make to Pascal for the 40-45 yards that's a good example of it. Leaning back off a rollout and hitting that. But yeah, it seems like his chemistry was a little better on day 2.
Mm-hmm.
Again, there was just a lot of drop passes, and I don't know. It didn't look like Eason, for example. Eason didn't really look like he was on the same page with his receivers the first day. Wentz looked fine with that. There was just, again, the drops and trying to figure out where guys like to be and everything, because they've all worked out together numerous times by now in the facility and outside of it during the offseason, but now they have defenders on them,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just learning things. I think there's definitely reason for optimism. Of course, he would get hurt right after this, but I mean, you see him and you're like, I can see exactly what Frank Reich wants to do with him.
Yeah.
It's just, again, it's a poor man's version of Andrew Luck, really. Because I'm not going to escalate Wentz back up to that MVP level, which would put him on a similar level as Andrew Luck. But I'm going to say he's a poor man's version.
No, I like that.
It
Smart
gives
quarterback.
Yeah, it gives Frank the options he had with Andrew.
Right, and he hasn't had that
Andrew
since.
Just do. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he genuinely hasn't had that since. And even though the offense has been decent post Andrew Luck, this was supposed to be the year. And it still very well could be. But obviously with Eason now elevated into the number 1 role for the time being, obviously Frank Reich said today he has to earn it. But Jake, all accounts that I've read so far is Eason has been very skittish, sketchy, whatever word you want to use, missing high on some throws. He flashes the arm occasionally, but genuinely looks like a quarterback who hasn't seen real action in 2 years. Are you concerned at all with the start at this point in training camp for Eason, or is this like hey, we have to step back and realize this guy hasn't really played football in 2 years because of the pandemic and sitting behind Rivers and Brissett as the number 3 as a rookie?
Yeah, I'm not overly concerned yet. Day 1 was not great. Again, he was kind of throwing behind guys. I think he had the pick where he just threw it way over his receiver's head, and then one of the safeties picked it off, just dove for it because it came way back to him.
Yeah.
Second day leveled things out a little bit. Oddly enough, his arm strength and arm talent is kind of like his calling card, and there have not been very many downfield shots whatsoever.
Yeah.
The defense is just taking it to the offense so far through practice. There's been a lot of checkdowns and shorter stuff, which you don't really expect to see a whole lot of from Eason in this system. You would think it might open things up more. But, taking those deep shots also comes with a bigger understanding of the offense. As he gets more used to things, I think the field will grow for him. But they're probably telling him, don't be afraid of checkdowns and stuff right now.
Yeah.
So I'm not too concerned. I think they said, he's going to be playing a lot in the preseason. If it's getting to within 2 weeks of the season and he's still not looking more confident and capable of handling more of the offense, I'll be concerned. But there's a lot of reps to be had still on the field. So I'm just not too worried yet. Honestly, I need to see him in the preseason when he's under pressure from a defense that's allowed to hit him. Because my biggest concern with him the whole time has been when he gets pressure from a defense, his game crumbles.
He was the second worst quarterback in the 2019 or 2020 draft class under pressure QBR wise. So, I mean, he's in the right situation. The Colts line is pretty good right now, obviously dealing with some injuries. But, Jake, I think, I'm with you. Zack Hicks, our colleague, is with you. Eason under pressure at Washington was an abject disaster. Everything fell apart. Like if people thought Carson Wentz was bad in 2020 because of pressure and just his mechanics in the pocket, Eason was a legitimate nightmare. From the sounds of it, Jake, at practice, that's where a lot of his misses and his misfires and high throws are happening, is because he's got people in his face. Obviously, he can't be touched, but people in his face, and it just becomes a mess mechanically. One guy we haven't heard much about so far, and I don't know to read into it if it's good or bad, is Sam Ellinger. Obviously elevated into the number 2 role for the time being, Jake. But what did you see from Ellinger in his first few days in training camp?
So I thought he threw the ball with a little more rhythm and accuracy than Eason.
Mm-hmm.
However, when you watch the ball come out of Carson Wentz and Jacob Eason and even Jalen Morton's hands, and then you see it come out of Ellinger's, it's a very notable difference. The ball just those guys can all throw it on a rope, and it just kind of flounders out of his hands.
Yeah.
I think I was talking to one of the other writers while we were watching practice. I think I called him like mobile Chad Pennington or something like that.
Yeah,
but
and
that's kind of how it's been.
Yeah.
Not a ton of downfield shots. His arm strength isn't awful. I don't think it's awful, but it's definitely not on par with the rest of the quarterback group.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna really want him throwing those like 15-yard timing outs and stuff, or he's just probably gonna get like picked off.
Right.
Yeah, it's he's been all right. You know, there's just not much to write home about in regards to him. He's someone who I think we'll probably see more from in the preseason rather than training camp practices, because I hate comparing him to Tim Tebow and stuff, but he's one of those guys.
It's a fair one.
You can turn it on when there's a live defense against you and your instincts kick in and you are escaping and, you know, throwing on the run and things. That's where I think those two kind of mesh. Mm-hmm. I just don't really expect to see a ton from him in practice.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, one thing that's not really helping those guys is the offensive line right now. If the season started tomorrow, I would tell you there's no way in hell Sam Tevi could be the starting left tackle.
That's what I was going to get to.
Cannot happen.
Yeah. I don't want to say I was excited about Sam Tevi. I think that would be laughable if I did say that, but I felt comfortable.
Yeah, and they seemed very comfortable too.
Right. You know, guy played nearly 2,500 snaps in his career at both left and right tackle. Clearly a veteran, knows what he's doing. The first few days in training camp, I mean, excuse my language, he's gotten his ass kicked by Kwity Paye. Like,
Kwity Paye, who is a rookie and a raw pass rusher with not a lot of moves in his belt yet.
And Paye is taking it to him.
Against a guy who has guarded Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa for years.
Yeah, and you know, were you surprised when Will Holden was the starting left tackle on day one? And you know, Kyle Stewart here brings up a good question. Is it Holden? Yeah, it's probably going to be.
I wasn't surprised because he was the left tackle during OTAs, but I don't think Tevi was out there yet.
No.
But they have it just seems like they've let Holden be like their secret asset. Like, yeah. I think they're very comfortable with Holden. I mean, they let him be out there as the first team left tackle those first 2 days. I'm guessing they're just giving these guys rotations a few days at a time.
It's going to come down to preseason. It's going to come down to preseason. I mean,
the difference has been night and day. And you can add Kamoko Toure to the list of guys that have and Ben Banigou.
Yeah, Ben Banigou had a really good day the other day.
Yeah. Knowing those three have been doing that is got to be a dream come true, because that's your three young pass rushers you hoped would be like defensive cornerstones, and all three of them are clicking at the same time at the most important defensive position.
And not to play devil's advocate, but if we are so down on Tevi, should we read much into that from Banigou, Toure, and Paye? Or it's tough. I mean, you're excited about that trio. You're like, all right, we're seeing stuff from them. This is perfect. But then you're on the flip side, you're like, Tevi looks terrible. So it's like, it's got to be right down the middle in a sense, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Well, those three as a group are going up against everybody.
Everybody.
He's not the only body they've taken, because I
Yeah.
think Teray was getting some nice work in against Braden Smith, who just earned an enormous new contract.
Yes, he was.
Those three are just doing well in general, which is awesome to see. For Teray, I think it's probably just getting his confidence in his leg back, because he never lost the skill. I think he probably just
couldn't stay healthy.
Well, the ankle wasn't 100% last year, it didn't sound like. And then you have to have the mental hurdle of trusting it again. Banagoo, maybe just a light flipped on. Year 3 for a pass rusher, that's a big milestone for them. And then we expected Kwity Paye to be a stud. But man, that is, I can't stress how important those three surging at this time is for that defense. That's so good to hear.
Yeah, and offensively, obviously, the line has been a little bit of an issue. Ryan Kelly has missed some time, hyperextended his elbow on day 1. A very large-scale scare happened today at Colts camp with Quentin Nelson. If I had ever have to hear about a foot injury again this year from the Colts, I'll be thrilled. It sounds like Quentin Nelson had his foot stepped on, had to come off the field, eventually returned, but man, when that guy left, it sounds like it was Joey Hunt and Jake Elgenkamp at left guard, and it was an absolute disaster. Which, I mean, you're kidding yourself if you think that if Quentin Nelson leaves with an injury that everything will be fine at left guard. Obviously, there's going to be a significant drop in play, but from all reports, those two were very rough until he came back. I mean, are you concerned about the offensive line? Like, it felt like a significant strength coming into the year, aside from the left tackle question mark. But now in camp, things aren't sounding great. You're having guys getting banged up. Some people are playing a little poorly. Are you concerned with the offensive line, or is it just, this is early in camp, let's wait till they get 1 or 2 preseason games under their belts?
Yeah, I'm not real worried about them yet. Their health, of course, it would be nice for them to be a little healthier right now, but it takes a little while to start clicking for the offensive line. And the Colts offensive line doesn't always look great early in camp either. But also the defensive line is starting to catch up to them. The Colts have this great offensive line, but they're having to block DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart and these 3. Let's add Tyquan Lewis to the mix. Really, that wasn't fair of me to not include him as the 4th guy, because it looks like he's going to be the starting left end. That defensive line is starting to catch up to them. And, there's only so much you can do in trench play in camp. It's just not the same as the preseason games. Health would be the one thing I'm concerned about. I'm really not concerned about when the season gets started, but, if Wentz is going to miss a lot of time, the center quarterback relationship is very important. So Eason and Ryan Kelly need all the reps and behind the scenes work they can have together. Because Ryan Kelly is very important on a weekly basis during the season when it comes to like protection meetings and things like that. He makes all those calls. So it's important for them to get healthy. I mean, we can only hope for that. But as far as their performance goes, I'm not real worried about it.
We have a question here from Kyle Stewart. How has Danny Pinter looked in training camp filling in for Ryan Kelly? I know that Andrew Moore was at camp on Saturday and mentioned that Danny Pinter looked, solid, steady at center, filling in for Kelly. But what have you seen so far?
I actually haven't seen him. I've been out of town while he's been in there. He's been in like the last 1.5 practices, I think.
So that's right, because Kelly got hurt Friday.
Yeah, but from what I've read, I've read when some of these other guys are getting their asses handed to them, and I just haven't really heard that about him.
That's what I was going to say. You haven't really heard much about Danny Pinter. Obviously, the Colts are high on him.
He may not come to be like a super above average guy, but just his college track record shows that he's just probably going to be a solid, dependable guy as his baseline.
Yeah.
I think he really could be the Colts' next Joe Haig, which they needed so badly. But
yeah. So defensively, from all reports, the Colts defense is just dominating in camp. And again, you can read into that what you want going against Jacob Eason and a depleted offensive line. But one guy that's really stood out in the reports that I've read is third-year linebacker Bobby Okariki.
Mm-hmm.
I had a story up on the site the other day just talking about comments from defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus that Okariki is just really trusting his eyes finally. And that third year tends to be when it really clicks for players because they've seen it all. They've been in all the situations possible. And it sounds like from reports in camp, Okariki's trusting his eyes and he's allowing his eyes to take him to the football. Where are you at with Okariki? What have you seen so far in camp? And that feels like a tremendous development to be able to have that type of athlete clicking on all cylinders next to a Darius Leonard. Does it not?
Yeah, I honestly, it's a great asset to have. Another year mentally into the NFL. His athleticism was never an issue. Has that great sideline to sideline range, and he's just going to be more of a playmaker than Anthony Walker. Walker was your down to down. He'll get the tackle, he'll do whatever, but you now have the possibility of having two kind of Darius Leonard level playmakers at linebacker, which is just a phenomenal thing to have.
It's kind of unfair.
Yeah. I mean, Leonard has the magic and everything, but he just comes up with these improbable plays like at the last minute when the Colts need it most. So I can't say Okariki's going to duplicate that, but just like the ball skills and the interceptions he can probably come down with, he's always been someone who's been able to pick off passes in practice. I don't know how many I've seen him come down with in his career, but it's been a lot. And it does sometimes translate to the field on game day. He's got a couple, I think. Had one with a broken hand and wearing a club last year against the Browns. So it's good to hear that mentally things are coming along even better for him. Because you and I discussed, we talked about Okariki before. There's probably going to be a little bit of a lull because Anthony Walker was so smart.
Right.
But Okariki offers much more athletically. So shoot, if mentally things are coming along that far, then we're looking at a much, much higher ceiling than Walker.
Yeah.
And EJ Speed is getting some love too.
EJ Speed has looked really good filling in for Darius Leonard, who clearly is not practicing, continues to work back slowly on the side after that June ankle procedure. EJ Speed, he's a height, weight, speed, just freak athlete at linebacker. I do wonder if he's going to get more run this year with Anthony Walker out of the picture. That's a Chris Ballard guy in EJ Speed. And if you can get Okariki and Leonard clicking and firing on all cylinders and then somehow be able to work in an athlete like EJ Speed, look out when it comes to that linebacker group. I've been so impressed with Okariki. I know Pro Football Focus was way down on him the last 2 years. I didn't think his tape was anywhere close to as poor as PFF's grades were. And again, like I said, year 3, things start to click. He's played, I want to say, over 500 snaps at this point. Like, if this is the year, like, man, to be able to hit on a 3rd round pick like that, like that's huge. So just it's great to hear Okariki's trusting his eyes and he's making plays in camp, because typically when you make plays in camp as a starter, that translates to the season. So that's exciting. Anything else you want to add there?
Well, yeah, trusting your eyes to me is one of the biggest pluses I can give a guy when I'm studying him in the draft at linebacker. That tends to lead to those just like laser focused tackles for loss, coming from all the way the middle of the field, sniping a guy on a bubble screen behind the line of scrimmage. That type of stuff is the result of that.
You know who else trusted his eyes in college?
Darius
Leonard.
Yeah exactly.
It's a massive strength and plus coming out of college if at linebacker or box safety or slot corner that you can write trusts his eyes. And to hear Okariki's doing that now, like, with that athleticism that he has, look out. So, yeah, all intents and purposes, everything sounds really positive coming out of the linebacker room at this point. I did want to ask you about the secondary. Obviously, Xavier Rhodes is still on the COVID-19 list. TJ Carey was activated today, and it sounds like Kenny Moore is still out, but Marvell Tell did return. I'm trying to find your notes here. Marvell.
thought I read that Kenny returned.
Hey, you did.
Kenny
I'm
returned. I
sorry.
thought, yeah,
It was Naeem Hines is still out along with Leonard,
yeah.
but Kenny Moore and Marvell Tell were back today. TJ Carey was activated, so Xavier Rhodes is still out. Rock Ya-Sin has had an up and down camp. He struggled with Michael Pittman at times. I think that's more of a sign of where Michael Pittman is at in year 2 rather than Rock Ya-Sin. But what did you see in your first few days at camp from the cornerback room, and do you still feel very confident about this group heading into the preseason?
Yeah, those first couple of days, both Tell and Rock Ya-Sin had quality play. I thought Rock was aggressive, of course. But he's aggressive at playing the ball. He's unfortunately one of those guys that practices pretty well usually, and I think that's been one reason that the Colts are so high on him. He just kind of makes plays. He bats a lot of passes. He just mobs the receiver at the catch point, especially on comeback routes and things like that. It's in a game when some of these things just kind of spiral out of control for him. So he's looked just like that. He looked great as a rookie in training camp. He looked great last year in training camp. So he's kind of doing his normal summer routine, I think. Like you said, he does have some up and down moments, like with Michael Pittman. That's just two physical guys, I think. And Pittman, I think, is learning to be more assertive at the catch point, which that was something he was good at USC, but I think took him some time in the NFL. And I think he's starting to get there. We're seeing some of those flashes. So that could be one thing. Marvell Tell, the athlete in him, is coming out, I think.
Yeah.
He's sticking to guys, hip to hip. He's a fast guy. He's got elite explosiveness. I just think the cornerback position looks really natural on him. And for a guy with that size and athleticism, that's terrific news for the Colts. I really don't know who I'd give the edge. If they're looking for that third starting corner, it's going to be one of those two.
It'll come down to preseason, honestly.
I think you're right, because you can practice great all you want, which both of them are doing well enough in practice, but game time, what does it look like?
Right.
And Marvell Tell has looked pretty good in his limited time that we've seen in games. Rock Ya-Sin, we've had obviously more of a mixed bag, but I think you're right. I think it'll come down to the preseason.
Yeah, and one of the nice things about it stinks to have guys like TJ Carey and Xavier Rhodes land on the COVID-19 list. Obviously, we can't, touch on that any further. It just stinks to hear that. But with those guys out, younger corners got a lot of work, and I think that's only going to help the Colts' depth. Period. So that's huge, and it's exciting. Matt Eberflus mentioned Rock Ya-Sin on, I want to say it was Friday. It was like he's had 2 really good days of camp, and we're encouraging him every step of the way. And I think that's massive for a cornerback's mentality, is if you have reassurance and reinforcement that you're doing a good job, that plays into your confidence, that confidence shines in your technique. And it's one of the most your mental health, your mental strength, that matters so much at that position, because you're on an island in a sense. Whether you're playing zone or man, you are on an island, and it is truly one of the most difficult positions to play in all of football, because it's one-on-one constantly, and if you're just not in the right headspace, you're going to second guess yourself, and your play is going to suffer. So I love that they are encouraging Rock Ya-Sin. They still believe in this guy very clearly. And it's just awesome to see him and Tell battling. The Colts' future at cornerback is in tremendous hands if the first few days of camp have shown us anything. So that's a huge positive. Yeah. Haven't heard a ton at safety. Obviously, from your notes, I believe Kari Willis forced a fumble today.
Of Jonathan Taylor, who has been very ball security conscious. over the
Yes,
last year or so.
especially after he had fumble issues at college. So
Hmm.
on one hand, it's like, okay, that's great to hear from Willis, but on the other hand, it's like, let's not do this, Jonathan Taylor.
Right.
The the one note though, Sean Davis, the veteran Sean Davis, not the
But yeah,
rookie, the
veteran Sean Davis.
veteran, picking off a pass,
Yeah.
picked off Brett Hundley. Um, yeah, I mean, what did you see in your first few days at safety? And it just sounds like, we know who the starters are. It's really a battle of what's going to happen behind those two.
Yeah, really the only guys I've paid much attention to at safety are Willis and Blackman because rookie Sean Davis has been out the whole time. I
Right.
was looking forward to seeing him, but he's on the sidelines. George Odom has been fine. He plays like you would expect to. Uh, Veteran Sean Davis, again, ho hum, not much to write about. But the starting two, they've been all over the place. They're very involved.
Yeah.
I thought Julian Blackman looks a little bigger
Yeah,
this summer
I was
too.
going to ask you. He obviously he's had a healthy offseason that really just focus on strength and conditioning.
Hmm.
He looks
I think
bigger, doesn't he?
yeah, I think he looks a little more filled out and has probably added muscle. He looks a little bigger to me.
Yeah, his lower half looks a little bigger too, which
Yep.
is a sign of, yeah, he's all the way back from the ACL. So,
For sure.
um,
And I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see what he can do. And Kari Willis said the same thing when we all talked to him. I think it was last Tuesday.
yeah,
Um, Someone asked Willis about Blackman and just said, he thinks he's going to have a good year. And I asked him, I was like, what's it? I was like, you're known for being a really instinctual player, but he is too. So what's it like playing with a guy like that who you just are on the same page? And he gushed about Blackman
yeah,
then.
yeah,
He's like, he's about to be a real problem. So like everyone watch out for him.
yeah,
I think they just absolutely trust each other. Nothing against Malik Hooker, but I just really got to think Willis and Blackman are on the same page mentally.
yeah.
Hooker was just still kind of a young football player and fitting into a system that wasn't always at his strength. But Blackman's just a kind of a different cat when it comes to the mental part of the game of football. So
Yeah, there's
that
no
safety
denying.
group is going to be nice.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
no denying that the Colts got a legitimate steal with Julian Blackman, because if he's not recovered from a torn ACL, there's no way he's around when the Colts picked him.
Right.
There's
He
just
probably would have gone
absolutely
in.
no way.
Yeah, probably would have gone in the late second, I would say.
Yeah. So again, the Colts got very fortunate. They trusted their scouting department, and they look like they got a legitimate stud at safety, which
Mm-hmm.
is massive. I know we're probably going to lose some viewers here because we're going to talk about the kicking game, and I'm sure Zack
Uh-oh.
Hicks is one that's completely tuning out. Yeah, we heard from Rodrigo Blankenship the other day. We heard from Bubba Ventrone, the special teams coordinator, the other day. The Colts are searching for more consistency in the kicking game, which is a little curious because Blackman only missed 5 kicks last year. Was one of the top kickers in field goal percentage last season, but his leg strength was an issue. His lower half
Mm-hmm.
looks a little bit thicker. He talked about his improved leg strength. I read that there were some reports that he was hitting 63 yarders in warmups, which
Mm-hmm.
again, it's in warmups. You don't have anybody coming at you. There's no pressure, but yeah, he obviously, I think he tailed off a bit there at the end of the year. Um, Obviously missed the short kick in the playoffs that really kind of did the Colts in. But do you think there's any chance that Eddie Pinheiro beats out Blankenship at this point?
I think it would have to take a meltdown from Blankenship.
Right. Just
Now
the
they're going to
absolute
give them,
yips.
yeah, they're gonna give them probably equal opportunities. But well, never mind. I thought I had another quote in my head that wasn't didn't actually pertain to them. But no, Blankenship. I mean, people have noticed he's gotten bigger. Unfortunately, I don't think they really kicked in the first 2 days because that's I do chart kicker stats during practice.
Yeah.
Which, if you like kickers, you'll be excited that I'm back tomorrow. But from reading everyone else's stuff while I was gone, I only saw one day where they charted their kicks, so I don't know statistically how they're doing. But yeah, I think it would have to be just something bad from Blankenship in order for Panera to catch up, and Panera would himself have to look good. Like,
people talk about, oh, they brought in a guy with pedigree. Pinero's bounced around so much.
he really doesn't have that much pedigree. He just got into the league before Blankenship. I think he's really only had like one season where he's kicked consistently.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited about Hot Rod. I gotta say, you had this on Twitter too. For the life of me, I could not read his shirt in the very beginning. Right. I was like, what does that say? You know, but finally it was like, oh, walk-on mentality. Okay. Yeah. Like it fits because it was the eye test. It had the specs at the top, but I was with you. I was like, what in the world does that say?
He is good at marketing.
Yes, he is. I kind of want that shirt because it'll make people stop and think. But no, I think
send one to Zach.
That's what we should do. Just get one for Zach. But yeah, I think this is Hot Rod's job. And what do you think that could do for this offense if he can consistently start hitting from, let's say, 48 plus? If that option is on the table consistently this year.
Yeah, I mean, shoot it. The Colts like to go for it on fourth down inside the 50 anyways, but they don't have to. Like if it's like 4th and 5 or something where it's like a lot riskier, just go ahead and kick it. And hopefully Blankenship's doing enough to where they can feel confident in that this year.
Yeah, he doesn't have to be Justin Tucker. Like, we're not saying that, but just give us a chance,
Yeah, and they'll simulate in-game situations for the kickers too. They usually do. Yeah. I mean, most of the time when they're kicking, it's just, there is a defense out there, but they're not really coming at him. They do have the field goal block team, but in other ones, they simulate 2-minute drills with the kickers finishing the drive off. And, the clock is running down, high pressure situation, and they do have the defense come at him. That's obviously as close to an in-game situation as they're going to get. So they will be able to see both Blankenship and Pinero doing that. So I think that'll be important. Dude, give him a 55-yarder in the in-game situation.
Yeah, let him try. Let's see what he has. Let's see if that leg strength is real and improved this year. You're never going to know unless you try, and I would love to see drive stall in preseason and say, all right, Hot Rod, get out there. Try this 58-yarder,
Yeah. Because it's inconsequential. It's inconsequential. It's for evaluation. Yeah.
Right. It's preseason. It's not like jobs are hindering on a win or a loss, in these 3 games. So, I want to go back to the offense here. We would be remiss if we did not talk about, I think, our favorite draft pick. I think we're on the same page here, but Kylan Granson, rookie tight end out of Southern Methodist, has stolen headlines at this point. Zack Kiefer from The Athletic mentioned the other day, buy stock in Granson now. He looks fantastic. He is turning heads at training camp. And I did a story back in, I want to say, mid-May. His college coach had talked to the Colts website and said that they thought that he could make an impact right away. Some Colts evaluators felt the same way. I think you and I know the history of rookie tight ends not really producing as rookies, but he feels like a guy that could really break that trend in Frank Reich's system, just based off of his start so far.
Yeah, and I think it was Mo today that said, he's just like exactly like Trey Burton.
Yeah.
And Trey Burton's big issue in his career has been health for the most part. I mean, if you get a healthy Trey Burton throughout his career, that was a guy who was supposed to be a special player. He earned a huge contract from the Bears. And if that is what it's looking like the expectations could become for Granson, that's a big deal. As for contributing immediately, after those first couple of days of practice, I said I was surprised at how much he was already being mixed in. Yeah. And I was actually talking to Zack Kiefer about it on the sidelines. And he's like, I could I could see him going 4 catches for 30 or so yards week 1. And, for that doesn't seem like much, but for a rookie tight end in week 1 to already get that much attention, that's pretty big.
Yeah.
And, I was just kind of putting my thinking cap on about it. Obviously, Carson Wentz is going to have his favorite guys, but if it's Jacob Eason, he's going to have his. Jacob Eason had a guy very comparable in college at Washington and Hunter Bryant.
Yep.
Kylan Granson could be his guy.
Yeah.
He's a tight end who can get downfield and catch those deep sideline balls, those back shoulders that those two love to connect on.
Mm-hmm.
That could be where he finds his comfort zone is Granson. We don't know, but I'm no longer going to put it past him to contribute immediately.
Yeah, and obviously I know from a fantasy perspective, you will have the Kylan Granson piece coming here this week. But yeah, man, I am impressed. Everything I've read about him is that he is up to speed, knows the playbook, already seems to be a pro's pro, which is massive coming out of SMU, not really a big program. Yeah, the Colts identified their guy. They went and got him, and man, he is turning heads, and he's really having people take notice. So that's so exciting because we love to pick when it happened. Our colleague Zack Hicks did an awesome film room on him, broke him down. He's a perfect athletic move tight end for Frank Reich's system. And so far, so good. The returns have been excellent in training camp. And I know this is a broader question here, and we're coming up on an hour here, so I don't want to keep you forever. But who are you most excited? The one player you're most excited to see on Sunday? Well, not this Sunday, but week 1 of the preseason for the Colts.
Ooh, man.
No, it's a loaded question, honestly, but like
it is. I'll give you an offense and I'll give you an offense and defense. Okay. So I'm confident in Kwity Paye and Kemoko Toure already that they're going to be fine. I want to see Ben Banogu defensively. I want to see what that looks like against another team in live football, and if he's really having this nice productive summer. Because that'll be a huge deal. The guy that kind of loses out on that is Al-Qadim Muhammad, who's been on the COVID list all of camp.
Right.
If there's 4 younger guys than him performing at a high level, then
he might be gone. That might
not great for him.
That might be a casualty.
Yeah. Offensively, similar to when I said I'm confident in Paye and Toure, I'm confident Granson is going to be all right. I want to see Mike Strawn.
Guy we have not talked about tonight.
That could be something. But I'm thinking I want to see Strawn, I guess, with Hundley. Sure we can see him with Sam Ellinger, but like he's a guy who can get deep downfield and win jump balls and stuff. I want to see him with a guy with a live arm.
He's played well in camp too.
I really want to see him. Yeah.
Yeah,
his had route running and his separation and stuff has been good.
Yeah, and our intern here at Horseshoe Huddle, Andrew Moore, was at camp Saturday, and he said that he looks like just a large human being that is a physical freak. Which, man, just projecting down the line, if that guy can hit, I am so excited about a pairing of Pittman and Mike Strawn. Like
oof, man.
Good luck.
With a potentially Paris Campbell in the slot.
Yeah, that's terrifying. And a Kylan Granson at tight end with Mo Alley Cox
up the seam.
Good luck. Good luck.
The potential of that lineup is bonkers, but whether health allows it to happen is another story.
Right. Yeah. So you mentioned Banogu and Strawn.
Banogu and Strawn is I really want to see what those two do in the first preseason game.
I will go. This is tough. I'll go JJ Nelson. I think he's had a pretty decent camp so far. I want to see if he can kind of carve out that number 5 receiver role, the special teams guy, because people forget in 2 years in Arizona, he put up over 1,000 receiving yards. Not 1,000 yards each year, but combined over 1,000 receiving yards. He's only 26.
A lot of people compared him to T.Y. Hilton When he was young in Arizona, a lot of people compared him to Ty, and at his age, there's not a lot of reason to not include him in the roster if he earns a spot. I mean, I know we want to save a spot for like DeMichael Harris or Desmond Patman. I want to operate like Strawn is making the roster. I mean, that's of course not a certainty, but if you're looking for one more roster spot and you've got an NFL veteran who's still relatively young and looks like he's earned it, then why not?
I misspoke. He's 28. So, but still relatively,
not that bad.
Relatively young, light wear and tear.
Wouldn't you feel more comfortable if you had to throw him into the lineup if like two of your receivers were banged up?
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
I would.
Absolutely.
I'd be more comfortable with Nelson than a rookie.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Defensively, I know this is kind of cheating, but I want to see Marvell Tell. I've found myself here late at night just reading, your camp reports, going through, Zack Kiefer and Stephen Holden's reports from The Athletic, George Bremer's, he keeps popping up. And then I find myself watching his USC tape and then watching, his limited play in 2019. And I just, I can't not be excited for that athlete and the potential that he has, whether that's at cornerback, safety, slot corner, that hybrid safety linebacker with his build and athleticism. He feels like a chess piece no matter where he plays. And I can't help but be excited for that guy. And, he had a year off from football, but he's having a heck of a camp so far. And I want to see if that carries over into preseason games and where he could help take this Colts secondary. We shall see. August 15th, 1:00 on NFL Network, Colts Panthers at Lucas Oil Stadium. That will be fun, Jake. That will be a lot of fun. I don't know. Will you be in attendance for that?
Yep, I'll be in the press box, and it can't come soon enough because I wasn't there all last year. So
so this will be fun for you.
Very much looking forward to that.
I do want to give a quick shout out to our colleague Zach Hicks. He's been just kicking butt on Eason film room stuff. I know that he's had some stuff up, I believe, on Brett Hundley, not on the website, but on his Twitter. And also moved over to a sister site part-time. He's going to be doing some Broncos stuff. So I know Zach's been catching some heat on Twitter the last few days, but Zach does fantastic work. Is a fantastic part of this team. I also want to give a shout out to our intern, Andrew Moore. Andrew was at camp, like we mentioned, on Saturday. Did an awesome job with the camp notes. He'll be back a couple times this week, I do believe. And then he will be heading to Canton on Sunday, and we'll be covering the Peyton Manning induction. He obviously will miss Saturday's Edgerrin James. Edgerrin James, part of the 2020 class. But Andrew will be there and will be live tweeting and reporting from the Manning enshrinement, which I'm looking forward to watching that on Sunday quite a bit. So we are 2 weeks from a real football game, which feels like an eternity, but non-Colts fans, just NFL fans in general, we do have the Hall of Fame game on Thursday night, Cowboys Steelers in Canton. So football is here, and I did see on social media the other day, Jake, this past Sunday was the last Sunday without NFL football until February. So that's fantastic. So,
nice. It was interesting for preseason to be on Sundays again, because someone asked me if I wanted to golf the other day, and it was the 15th on Sunday, and I was like, oh no, I can't, because the Colts have a game that day.
Yeah, I couldn't stand the this was Thursday night, here's a Friday night, get out of here with that stuff, but it'll be nice. But real football is almost here, and we're excited. But we've done quite a bit of work here at Horseshoe Huddle, building up the site and social media following, and just genuinely appreciate all the views, all the emails, the direct messages, the reads. We've hopefully we are giving you the content that you guys are looking for here in training camp, and appreciate all the support so far. And hopefully we can keep up the good work here. But we are just a well-oiled machine at this point. And certainly appreciate the words of encouragement here from Kyle Stewart. Here you can see at the bottom of the screen. But I am blessed with an awesome team. Jake, I've known for years. Just one of the best out there. Zack is just a tremendous asset, and I think we found our Kylan Granson and Andrew Moore, Jake. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think we found a sleeper. So
yeah, no, Josh and I were gushing about Andrew off air before we went live earlier.
Yeah, we were.
He's honestly, I have really enjoyed his live coverage of camp and everything, and everything he's been doing has been excellent. So I think I gave him a shout out for his birthday the other day on Twitter to follow him, but Colts fans, you seriously will want to follow him. He's another boots on the ground guy.
Yeah,
I'm really hoping him and I are at the same practices at some point this week, because that'll help me immensely. And I think it'll make our content a lot better too if he's out there. So
yeah, Andrew will be sticking around long term at this point. Just tremendous team here. I've been so impressed since training camp started, and I certainly cannot wait for the season. But yeah, Jake, when will you be back at camp this week? I know you had a heck of a travel experience here.
Yeah. So I was at a buddy's wedding in Atlanta all weekend, so I missed a few practices, but I will be back tomorrow. I'll be back for the rest of them this week, including the weekend. So
tomorrow's a big day. First padded practice, 10 a.m.
Yep. I'm back to using my own eyes to create notes rather than having to gather everyone else's. So
yeah,
that'll be good.
And again, any and all content you need is at Horseshoe Huddle. I think Andrew's piece that he did a month ago on the quarterback depth chart is our most searched and clicked on piece right now, which shout out again, Andrew. Over 7,000 views in the last 2 days.
We were joking earlier that Andrew's piece, which he wrote way before any of this Carson Wentz stuff started happening, is getting so much traction right now that I had to go in and throw a blurb in there today about, Carson Wentz got hurt and they signed Brett Hundley recently, because I didn't want thousands of people to not think we were updating things. So
right. So it's a fast moving world right now with the Indianapolis Colts, and I would not be surprised if Quentin Nelson gets a hey Toby, how you doing? Would not be surprised if Quentin Nelson gets an extension here, and if Darius Leonard gets something. So the wheels continue to turn with Colts coverage. So
yeah,
Jake, I don't want to keep you much longer. That will do it for tonight. I know you got an early start tomorrow. Again, padded practice, 10 a.m. in Westfield. That should be a ton of fun. Knock on wood. Hopefully there's no injuries. That'll be the first milestone for those guys to pass, is the padded practice and to come out relatively healthy. So that's.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say I don't know if they're getting to it already tomorrow, but with padded practices comes the one-on-one offensive versus defensive line drills. And
according to Grover Stewart, that's coming.
Those.
Yeah, it sounds like from what Grover Stewart said after practice that's coming tomorrow. So that will be interesting.
I like to score those two along with the receiver versus cornerback stuff. So keep an eye on that if you want to see who's whooping up on who.
Yeah, selfishly, I hope that they keep Quentin Nelson very far away from that drill. Just not worth it at this point.
Oh, he never is.
Yeah. So I mean, we know what he can do. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to your tweets tomorrow, just to see what's happening at the first padded practice of 2021 training camp. So a little over an hour here. Figured we'd get out of here at the hour mark, but wanted to give some shout outs and touch on some stuff. But Jake, that's going to do it for tonight, man. Another awesome show. We're going to really ramp up here now that we are in the thick of things with training camp, and Jake's done with quick jet trips to Magic City. So
after I arrived 13 hours after I was supposed to on Friday.
Yeah, what a wild experience. And then you spilled, looks like tea on your suit.
No, it was my coffee. So my buddy and I traveled to the airport together Sunday morning, and we got there real early, so early that the only like restaurant that was open at my gate was Starbucks. And I seriously did wait in line for an hour for it. I got my iced oat milk latte. I went to sit down at my gate finally because I've been standing for an hour. then boom, a lot of it was on my white button-up shirt. So that's how my travel just did not go well over the weekend.
No,
really.
no, it did. No,
But
it did
now
not.
I'm back home, and I'm happy to be home.
Yeah. But Jake, I appreciate all the work you've been doing. I know you're kicking butt, taking names here at training camp, and obviously doing a full-time job and being a dad of a young child all at once. So keep up the great work.
Back at you. You got the 2 kids. So
I do. So obviously our hands are full, but your boots on the ground there and doing a great job. So get some sleep, travel safely, and if you guys aren't following Jake on Twitter, Jake, why don't you drop your Twitter handle and get people to follow you along there?
Yeah, right here on the old name tag. But if you're listening later, it's at Jake Arthur NFL, and same thing with Facebook too.
Yeah. So, all right, that's gonna do it for tonight. So please follow, rate, and review anywhere you get your podcast. Just search the Horseshoe Guys. We'll be right there. And then follow us on Facebook, Horseshoe Huddle on Sports Illustrated. Give us a like. Check out some of our stories. And Jake, our Twitter handle is SI_Colts. And what's the other one?
Yeah,
is it Horseshoe Huddle?
The other one is at Colt Maven. And then
that's right.
We also have at Horseshoe Guys.
For the podcast. So give us a follow on those platforms and just stay up to date on all Colts news. And hopefully some positive stuff comes out here in the next few days. Guys returning from injuries, contract extensions getting done, and we'll go from there. But Jake, great work tonight, and I will certainly talk to you tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, man.